So today we're going to be talking about the secret traitors in One Punch Man. And this is like a contentious topic because it depends on who you ask about this. Some people think there's no traitors. We're just taking this for face value. Everyone is a hero who is a hero, and everyone who is a monster or a villain is a villain. That's it. There's no in between. But I've got someone here with me who likes to drink the Kool-Aid like myself, and that's Anime Anxiety.
Hello.
So we're going to be talking, like I said, about the secret traitors because he's one of the few people who seems to somewhat agree with me that there's something going on, at least something suspicious. We'll first go into the latest stuff that we discovered in chapter 183, and I talked about this a little bit in my review, but I'm gonna go more into it now. So we found out that Gearspur is suspicious, okay? And that's not even just me saying it. You can see Eyelashes and Needle Star looking at this dude suspicious, okay? So it's not just me trying to convince anyone of it. So why are they looking at him suspiciously? So give you some context of this chapter. You know, this was right after the whole Saitama and Tatsumaki fight had ended and the whole resolution with the Tsukuyomi stuff. We found out that this Hero Association, some of the executives that we see here, were trying to sell psychos to this organization, Tsukuyomi, which is ran by espers that apparently can create espers. So, given that we know about Tsukuyomi now, both the audience and the characters within it, that comes up. And the characters that we see congregating underground at this point. And Gearspur nonchalantly just comes in and his demeanor kind of changes. Because before this, he was always just like, I'm, a little guy and I'm gonna be helpful and I'm, kind of insecure, but, overall I'm just a good guy. But now he's suddenly like, trying to convince people of things because he says when Tsukuyomi is being mentioned here, he says Tsukuyomi is the name of a secret society from some urban legend that's been around for a long time in our Esper circles. To be honest, it's a completely ridiculous rumor. Perhaps the survivors from the Monster Association decided to come back and take psychos under the guise of some kind of trade-off. Would that make sense? It seems there were a number of other espers in the Monster Association after all. And maybe I would be on board with this if we didn't know that Tsukuyomi was literally a thing. Yeah, maybe if it was more ambiguous, then yeah, there's some plausibility there, but we know. And the fact that he's like pretty much gaslighting not only the characters but also the audience is super suspicious to me, and I'm already convinced that he is a part of Tsukuyomi, because we also saw before that when his mask broke off, he had the scar across his nose, and the recurring thing with the scar on the espers is that they came from Tsukuyomi. And Apollo, I'm pretty sure that's why he has like that tattoo across his forehead. It's covering up the scars, I assume, that he has. So what are your initial thoughts on Gearspur? Like when you were reading this chapter for the first time, were you feeling something similar?
Oh yeah, like immediately. And because like just how you said, it might be plausible, like what he was saying, if we didn't already just get like this entire like fight between Tatsumaki and Tsukuyomi members and get this whole backstory and learn that they're actually the ones that took Tatsumaki as a child. I mean, I personally have always thought that Gearspur had some sort of significance to the story that like wasn't being made apparent immediately because for like what you said, the scars that he had going across his head. I remember I made a video not too long ago kind of discussing Gearspur and like his potential major importance in the story. And at that point it was totally just speculation because around that time we were getting like Tatsumaki's backstory, a little bit of it, how she got busted out of the research facility by Blast. And at around that same time, this is when like Gearspur was getting kind of his, here and there moments to shine in the manga, and seeing kind of putting the pieces together, thinking like, okay, this guy seems like he has some unstable psychic powers, and it almost seems like he wasn't born with them because it seems like he has very little control over them and needs that special headgear. It kind of just made sense to me that like, this research facility that might potentially be doing something involving espers might actually be creating them because of Gearspur, and seeing those stitches across his head, you can kind of connect the dots and be like, okay, maybe he had some kind of like brain augmentation or something. And to see this, like this chapter, having it like all come full circle, it blew my mind. I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't speculate on it like I probably should have. I kind of just like immediately thought like, this is it. Like this is literally the confirmation that this guy is shady, whether he knows it or not, which is kind of a different topic here, but he definitely is trying to take the heroes off of the Tsukuyomi's tail for whatever reason. I mean, it's yet to be revealed what that reason is, but he is either like a plant, some kind of sleeper agent by the Tsukuyomi put into the Hero Association, or he's just like full on heel, knows what he's doing, and is deliberately trying to kind of sabotage the Hero Association's plans to, you know, find more about Tsukiyomi.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Before we go into the other aspect of him, because we talked about this in our previous review, there's 3 paths that God takes to control the world and to have himself resurrected. He has the cyborgs, the espers, and the monsters. And we'll go into the cyborg stuff with the organization because I think that also applies here. But do you think that Gearspur is possibly the brother of Apollo? And I say that because one is short, one is tall. They both have the same hair pretty much. Gearspur's pulled back.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
you know, also the parallels to the Psychic Sisters, Tatsumaki and Fubuki. I think he is.
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting you say that because I remember in that moment where Gearspur kind of had his like shining moment against Neon and he used his powers to like their full potential. I believe it's Fubuki that sensed it and thought it might have been like Tatsumaki's power or something. And now you bringing that up, that like whole like older sister, younger sister dynamic, it would make perfect sense that, you know, that he is Apollo's younger brother. And I mean, that just kind of gives more evidence to the fact that it might be possible that, you know, Gearspur was planted there unknowingly. But like at the same time, like how could he possibly not know, you know, all this stuff with the Tsukiyomi if that's his brother, you know? So I feel like it raises more questions than it gives answers, but it's definitely a possibility.
And also just his wording here and the way that his mouth is, it's not like, I hate to say baby face, but it's not like a good guy thing. He's coming across manipulative here because also the wording.
Yeah.
It's a completely ridiculous rumor. It's like, why?
Right.
Why is it completely
Like not even speculating like, oh, this might be true. Like, no way. This is ridiculous. Completely forget about it. You know,
Exactly.
And that's just way out of his character too, from what we've seen during the Monster Association arc. He seemed way more timid, way more insecure, a lot more just like observant and kind of letting the plot kind of move him along, where versus now he's kind of trying to move the plot along himself, you know?
Yeah, he's like way too confident. He's never been this confident in anything. So
super weird.
So aside from that, we also have the possibility of him being tied to the organization as well, which I said before, this makes him so significant because he's one of the few characters who is tied to 2 factions at the same time. So yeah, Hero Association, they're obviously corrupt, they can't be trusted, and I think they have already been infiltrated by the organization. Because a couple chapters back, we saw that guy Air, the A-class hero, got shot in the neck by evil natural water. He was also augmented on by some random guys. They just said they came and they gave him some cybernetic stuff to, you know, now he has like that voice thing going on. But it goes back to the thing that I always think is funny because it seems so ridiculous, but man, it makes so much more sense even now. The bolo tie that those guys are wearing. Gearspur
I was waiting for you to bring that up.
He has the same bolo tie.
That's the most obvious. Like, you can't make it more obvious than that. Like, come on. You can't. You don't just add a bolo tie to only 2 characters in the whole story and make it look exactly the same and not have it be connected. You know. So that was like the smoking gun for me.
And it's just his helmet is the same thing as the bolo tie, and that's also going back to what the G robots look like. Well, at least G4 has that thing, his eye. And that's what this is all kind of coming around to. Like, you don't even have to, just the people listening, you don't have to listen to my nonsensical rhetoric and the conspiracy theories that I have. If you just look for yourself, you can see that there is always, on the bad guy's side, a singular eye that ties them all together. First of all, the moon. It is always represented as a singular eye. I don't even have to go into the Egyptian mythology stuff. So that's right there, the big smoking gun, first of all. And then if we go to the monsters, they usually have a singular eye. Gira, singular eye. It's all because it's supposed to represent they are disciples of God. And that is what we are seeing here with the organization. And they have already, like I said, infiltrated the Hero Association, but secret. And that leads me to the other secret traitor in the Hero Association, and it's of course Drive Knight. Drive Knight is such a fascinating character, not necessarily because he's well crafted, but because he's in such an interesting community. One Punch Man, in my opinion at least, the community isn't as fleshed out as, let's say, like the One Piece community is. The One Piece has more so like a hive mind mentality to it. It's like, we all agree on this, we all accept this, and then you can kind of be adventurous with your theories. But other than that, it always has to circle back to what we all agree on. One Punch Man, not so much like that. It's more Wild West kind of. Like, we can all have these different kind of opinions because not everything has been fleshed out. And that's why you're going to see people's opinions on Drive Night so incredibly divided. Like, it is so fascinating how you can't get a majority to agree on if he's evil or good. And I love it personally. Like, I don't want everybody to be like, yep, we accept Drive Knight's evil, because when it is revealed, it's just going to make it that much sweeter. Before I go into why Drive Knight is the traitor, do you also think that he is, like a plant? Like, he is a part of the organization hiding in plain sight inside of the Hero Association? Do you think there's some merit to that? First, let's talk about GamerSup's new flavor, Red Raspberry. This is going to drop today at 3 p.m. guys, and I was lucky enough to get this early, and I'm not even capping. I swear this is my favorite flavor of GamerSup's. It reminds me of this red raspberry drink that I was able to get from the bodegas when I was young that I can't get anymore now that I live in the Southwest. But man, I love this stuff so much. They also have anime girl thigh flavor. That's right. The taste is like an orange creamsicle, and then of course it has that great anime girl thigh flavor to it. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But if you don't, you're gonna have to try it for yourself. So guys, if you're interested in getting some GamerSup's, a waifu cup, and some awesome merch, check out the link in the description and make sure you use code BIGZ for 10% off your purchase. You're also going to be helping me too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, but I think like the first time I ever saw him, because I got introduced to One Punch Man with the anime, actually, the first season. The first time you're introduced to him, he's just like sitting there with the other heroes, like looking from left to right. Like, I'm like, what is this guy, why does this guy look so suspect, like right off the bat, And from there, it's just been like continuous, like shady things that he's done, like warning Genos about Buffoy, which, who knows what that entails quite yet, but, pretty much draining a whole portion of a city of its energy just for a quick boost, and during the Monster Association arc. It's just like all these little things that make you really question him and his intentions. And I think especially with stuff that's happened in the webcomic recently, like everything just keeps building to this, like, Metal Knight and Drive Knight dynamic, like who's the evil one. And I think it's been made like a little too obvious that it's Metal Knight. So I just think with One's writing and the way he kind of like diverts expectations with this kind of stuff, I think he's definitely been slowly setting up Drive Knight as a traitor of the Hero Association. And now seeing Gearspur here, it's made pretty clear that he's not the only one. Like, I don't want to say they're working in tandem here, but like what the nefarious organizations behind the scenes here definitely have their hands all over the Hero Association. And it's just like a ticking time bomb at this point.
So I don't even really have to go into too much, to be honest, because it would just make the video too long. I already made a video about this. I even had to look at my own video to reference some of the stuff because there's no other resource for it as far as I know. But just take a look at the two possible traitors here. It's either going to be Metal Knight or Drive Knight. Which one has been way more vocal about the other? Obviously Drive Knight. I don't even think Metal Knight has ever said the words Drive. He's never even said it. The only time we've ever seen him acknowledge Drive Knight was when he's looking at those monitors, like in the webcomic towards like the chapter 130s range, I think. And he's like, which one of these is going to give me the most problem? That's about it. But it's always Drive Knight saying that Metal Knight is a bad guy. And he's never, not once, given a good reason why. Long story short, I think that he is Buffoy's son. And the story that we hear about the Mad Cyborg, about how his brain, there was some kind of malfunction that happened when he was becoming a cyborg, and that led him to being crazy. I think we're finding out about Buffoy maybe augmenting his son, and that's why he's so cold towards him. And, that's what Drive Knight eventually is, and he was visited by God, similar to how the other characters have been. Again, I'll link the video. You can go way more into it there if you want, but I do think that this is what it's ultimately leading to. We're seeing these secret traitors, and that's another thing, is Gearspur reminded me so much of Drive Knight because he talks the same way as him, and the way that his personality can shift from time to time when he needs to get what he wants. Like, it's like, yeah, I guess he's a good guy, right, guys? Yeah.
And we also also like, going back to that conversation with Second Guard, not to kind of like fester on this too long, but when he asked him like, would Blast show up if the Hero Association was attacked? Like, who the hell asked that? You know, like what, you know, all right, what's it to you, man? Like that's something that a regular hero would say, would be like, yeah, we'll defend it, or like we'll do something about it. But like, why are you asking like, what's the contingency plan if the Hero Association is assaulted, other than the fact of like it's going to be you doing it and you're going to be the one worrying about Blast, you know what I mean? So it's these little things. Like I feel like at this point it's not so much as like, you know, tinfoil hat stuff like some other people might think. There's so much scattered evidence throughout the manga of just building up his shadiness, and the only thing though is why I think he's kind of different from Gearspur is that like Gearspur has actually had like moments in the manga where he seems like a team player, like someone that's like, you know, actually good, or, you know, kind of not really, kind of, you know, green. You know, he's fresh in the Hero Association. He's had his shining moment, like saving other heroes and stuff like that. I feel like one wouldn't build him up like that just to kind of make him turn full heel for no reason, you know? That's why I believe like there might be a possibility that he's actually more of like a sleeper agent, where he's not aware of what he's doing. But you know, we saw in the chapters prior with like the whole Apollo activating this like sleeping agent inside of Fubuki, we kind of got introduced to those like potential psychic triggers, you know, like triggering certain things inside someone's body by, you know, directing some psychic power towards it. So this might be kind of alluding to what's going on with Gearspur. He might have like a plant in his brain or something that actually doesn't activate, or, you know, kind of rehashes his memories of the Tsukiyomi until the moment is necessary, you know, when like the organization or the Tsukiyomi actually need him to be doing some kind of task within the Hero Association that kind of works towards their ultimate goal. So, I mean, that's where I think the difference is between both of them. Drive Knight's always been shady, never not been shady, but Gearspur, I feel like, has that hope to not be like a full heel, like maybe, you know, be in the middle and you don't really know what his intentions are until you realize that he's been like actually altered mentally or something.
That's a great theory, because I was also thinking the same thing when you were saying that he's not exactly Drive Knight, because I didn't know Drive Knight was the Mad Cyborg until 2019. Whatever chapter where he's talking to Second Guard after he defeats Neon. That's when I knew for sure. But before that, I just believed him that Metal Knight was the bad guy. But now if you go back, you can see that Drive Knight was suspicious the whole time. You can't really do that with Gearspur. You go back, Gearspur just looks like a full-blown good guy. There's nothing really suspicious about him at all, other than his helmet breaking and you seeing the scars. So I think the sleeper agent theory is very plausible, and that's probably what's going on here. Like, Gearspur in this moment is programmed to say this stuff because he's forced to genuinely believe it, but he's just unaware that he's being controlled, of course. And then we can end this on, you know, Tsukiyomi organization, are they working together? And I think that they are, to some extent. Whether they're fully aware of it or they're not fully aware of it, there is some tandem working going on here. And I'm going to go into some webcomic spoilers. So if you don't want to know what's going to happen, check out now. I mean, you've already made it far enough through the video, so I won't blame you. But we know that Fuzzy is the true leader of the Neo Heroes. And he personally contracted Destro and the other...
Airman
and Destro. He purposely went out of his way to contract Airman and Destro. Now, either he found them or they found him. It doesn't really matter, because I think Airman and Destro are the Gray Fox robot that we see in the beginning and the Brain robot. The ones that, you know, encounter Hammerhead and tell him that they let him take the suits from the organization. I think that those are those characters. So that means that they are prime organization people, and therefore the organization is working with Tsukiyomi, because I also think that Fuzzy is the leader of Tsukiyomi. I mean, if he's not, it's like, why wouldn't he be? Because he's like presented as being the top Esper guy here. He is the grandson of Shibawa, specifically said he inherited her precognition powers, and he's super respected, and I'm sure he's ultra powerful in his own right. Like, he just doesn't have the third eye. I'm sure he can do all the other Esper stuff as well. So I'm thinking, instead of, you know, Shibawa being killed by God essentially when she looked into the future, when Fuzzy did the same thing, he accepted God instead of just denying him, or whatever went on with Shibawa. And that's why he is like currently his disciple. And it's all connecting here because we also see the Neo heroes have this whole big secret cyborgification scheme going on.
Right.
And obviously Fuzzy is aware of this. There's no chance that Fuzzy does not know that that's going on.
Yeah, no shot.
So, I mean, we pretty much see it happening here with Gearspur, with the helmet and everything. And yeah, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it all just intertwines so easily, I feel like, because like with that flashback with Tatsumaki, we saw that now, knowing that was the facility where they were researching espers and creating artificial espers, whether or not it was in the same lab, whatever. The whole point is that like that same organization was doing that stuff, and they happen to also have a god cube. Like they literally, fact right there, like they have some kind of affiliation with God, right? So it would make perfect sense that Fuzzy, being someone that inherited the third eye ability, which I believe is the key to actually communicating with God, much like how Psychos went insane for doing so. It would just make way too much sense for him to not be the leader of the Tsukiyomi, and that also makes it pretty clear that, like you said, they have affiliations with the organization, because the Tsukiyomi, more than likely, they were kind of presented as these band of espers or artificial espers, but it was never made very clear whether or not they were like a group of scientists or something. So they had to have gotten their technology or their scientists to kind of dive into these projects and create these artificial espers somehow. And it seems like, much like with the Neo heroes in the webcomic getting these battle suits, it might be the organization supplying these means of research for the Tsukiyomi. So just another way to explain, they have their hands all over everything, because you also got to think too, like, and this is going a little bit out there, but right now in the webcomic with all the artificial monster stuff, we also saw that there were like some kind of modified monsters in that facility that Tatsumaki was being researched on. So it all intertwines somehow, and it's just, there's still that like little piece that needs to be introduced to like put it all together, because it seems like there was several operations going on in that research facility, and like I said, there just has to be some kind of catalyst to kind of tie it all together, and it might be Fuzzy. So that's kind of like what I think his major importance in the story in the future.
100%. And I especially love the thing that you said about them not just gathering data for their organization, but also Tsukuyomi. That is fascinating. Unlike regular armor, it reads the wearer's nerves and use electrical signals to react with artificial muscles. And
yeah, I mean, and also we saw like in his little like fight with Suiryo's little fight with Garo, like it can straight up just control your body if it needs to. So like it has to have some kind of influence on your muscles and brain somehow, for it to be able to do that. And it would make perfect sense that they have some means of enhancing muscles and brain activity, because assuming that the headgear that Gearspur has might be from the organization, it just makes perfect sense. So yeah, I mean, they have their hands everywhere. I mean, it's almost like a certainty to me at this point.
Yeah, that also could parallel to what Psychos was saying about the rival group, the Invisible Hand. I think that's what this has all been alluding to in more ways than one, which is just so fascinating. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Thank you again to Anime Anxiety. Please check out his channel. He reviews One Punch Man and Chainsaw Man. A lot of man content. Check it out.
Yeah, all the mans.
And let me know what you think. Do you think Drive Knight's the traitor? Do you think Gearspur is an unintentional traitor? Or do you think I'm an idiot? Let me know, as you always do. And yeah, subscribe to Anime Anxiety.